I know it's here somewhere. Finally. Oh, it's time for the doctor. You're listening to Dr. Bill, the computer curmudgeon. Take it away, Doctor.
Well, it's that time again, and the doctor is in. It's time once again for Dr. Bill, the computer curmudgeon. And on this show, we have some stuff for you, as we are wont to do. Stuff that will be of benefit to you, I trust. We are proud members of the Tech Podcast Network, techpodcast.com. If it's tech, it's right here on Dr. Bill, the computer curmudgeon. We're also proud members of the International Association of Internet Broadcasters. Yes, indeed. Now, you may have noticed that on the blog, drbill.tv, drbill.tv, as it says there on the screen, we haven't done any articles lately. Sorry about that, but this show is not based on the blog for once, which is rare occasion, but true in this case. This particular edition of the Dr. Bill Show is all about MakuluLinux. That's interesting to say. MakuluLinux. Yes, the LinDoz Edition. LINDOZ. LinDoz Edition. It is the Linux for people who are coming from the Windows world. Okay? So, get ready for that. I want to tell you about Ting. Mobile that makes sense. Ting is a cell phone carrier, mobile phone, for those of you in England. Mobile. I guess that's how they say it. I don't know how they say it. But at any rate, cell phone for those of us here in the good old US of A. It is a carrier. And it is one that allows you some freedom and is inexpensive. And so for $25 off of their offer, you can go to this link, drbill.tv, drbill.tv/ting with a T. Not Bing with a B, but T-I-N-G, Ting. And check it out. It will be of benefit to you to check out this particular Ting offer. Okay? All right, let's talk about MakuluLinux. A Linux for those that are coming from the Windows world. And as soon as you check it, as we check this out, which I'm about to do, you will see how well it works. So let's go into that video right now. Okay, we're going to look at MakuluLinux, and this specific edition of Makulu is LinDoz, and you'll see why in just a minute. I will say that the way they have to download this and try it is very interesting. You can get an ISO file like a regular Linux distribution, or you can get an OVA file so that it's already installed and ready to go, which is what I chose to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start it here, and it'll take a minute for it to fire up. We're going to allow it to do its thing, and I'm going to close out some of these little messages that we get and go ahead and enter in. You'll notice that it's got some kind of interesting graphics at the startup here. There we go, MakuluLinux with a little spinning M. Cute. And it will finally take us into this version of Linux. This version of Linux is designed for, as you might guess looking at it here, Windows users. So this is interesting. This is MakuluLinux, and the specific version is LinDoz. And it's going to come up here and say, welcome, we've got an introduction video for you, as well as other things like donate to their open source project. But we're going to close that out. I'm going to come over here to the little start button, which is in the form of an M from Makulu Linux. Pop it up and take a look at what we've got here. Can you see where this is very Windowsy? For instance, Office here. Now this Office is LibreOffice, but they've used the Windows icons. So if I click on Calc, it's going to crank up LibreOffice Calc. But it's kind of interesting. I'm going to get rid of some of these little messages here. This is a... There we go. Let's turn that off. There we go. Now, this, of course, if you're familiar with LibreOffice, is Calc. But I like the way they've made it very Windows friendly. Let's come over here and look at System Info. And we'll see Makulu Linux. It's running Cinnamon for its graphical user interface. 5.3.0 for the Linux kernel. And we're running, the machine that I'm running it on is an i7 CPU, 3.43 gigahertz and 4 cores. 3 gig of memory allocated to this virtual machine. 42 gig hard drive is what it allocated for itself as an OVA. And then the VMware SVGA graphics adapter. So pretty straightforward how it's working there. But I really like the way this works. Now, I'm going to crank up Google Chrome, which you'll notice it doesn't say that it is Chromium. It's going to ask you want to make it the default browser? Sure. We're doing it for this demo. And what I'm curious about here is this truly Chromium? Or is it Chrome? And it identifies as Chrome. That's pretty cool, actually. So it's not Chromium, it's Chrome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And I'll just use my good old regular Google Chrome Gmail address. Of course, you have to spell it right. That does help. And the official super secret password. And once I do this, enter password to unlock your login keyring. Ooh, nice. Nah, I don't think so. Is it going to let me do this? It's not going to let me go any further. Okay. Well, in that case, I will cancel and get out if I can. It's not going to let me. Let's just close that window. Nope, not going to let me do that. Close all. How about that? Wow. I am officially stuck at this point. I would type the password, but I don't know the password. Let's try LinDoz. That wasn't it. Makulu. Ah, it was Makulu. All right. There you go. All right. That tells me a couple of things. I actually had tried password before. That didn't work. I tried LinDoz. That didn't work. But then I tried Makulu, and it did. So, way to go, Makulu team. All right, I'm sure that was written down somewhere in the documentation. But you know me. I didn't read the documentation. So here we are in Google with all of my shortcuts and everything that I normally would have. This is interesting. I'll go into Gmail. And sure enough, there's regular old Gmail. How cool is this? I really get a kick out of this because, you know, I'm actually kind of jazzed about this. Let's get out of that. I'm having way too much fun. So, as you can see, very interesting. Now, what I want to do, let me try this. This is where I really was going to go a minute ago. This is LinDoz, right? So if it's LinDoz, shouldn't I be able to run Windows software? I know some of you are going, no, you should be able to run Windows software. It's Linux. Well, let's just see. Here's Notepad++. Latest release, sure. Let's go with the 64-bit installer. I know what you're saying. You're saying, wait a minute, this is the x64 Windows installer. Dr. Bill, how do you expect this to work? Hang in there. Hang in there. Let's go to downloads. Here's the installer. Notice it says open with Wine Windows Program Loader. You knew I was up to something, didn't you? Wine comes automatically installed on MakuluLinux-LinDoz Edition and pre-configured. So it's updating itself. And what we'll see here in a minute is, sure enough, my Windows version of Notepad++ is coming up and saying, okay, I'm ready to install. And it sure looks like it, doesn't it? This is a Windows program. Next, agree. It's going to install the C program files on a Linux box. All right, next, sure. Let's create a shortcut on the desktop. Install. Run. Really? Let's click finish. And there it is. Now, I know some of you going, what? Now, hold on. Wait a minute, Dr. Bill. Hold on a minute. How is that working? Well, because we're running, now see, there's the icon over here. We're running a Windows program under Wine on Linux. But you notice, if I were a regular Windows user, didn't know anything about Linux, I didn't have to configure this. I didn't have to set it up. I didn't have to do anything special. I just downloaded Notepad++ and I clicked install. You know, I right-clicked and installed it with Wine. I need to do that. But other than that, there it is. Ready to roll. Now let's look over here. Let's see. What would that be? It'd be under all applications, I guess. So let's scroll down. Sure enough, there's Notepad++ under all applications. What would you call that? Would that be, I'm not sure what other category it would be under. Close enough for government work that it's under all applications. I suppose you could put it under one of the other areas if you really wanted to. But let's just look at some of the applications we have here. Catfish file search. Okay. Screenshot. LeafPad, which is a simple text editor for Linux, very much like Notepad. Let's go back up here. Let's see. An archive program, a virtual keyboard, which actually, if I click that, there's our virtual keyboard. That's kind of nice. All right. Get rid of that. Come back up here. Let's look at graphics. We've got Penta, which I believe was a Geek Software of the Week for Windows not that long ago. There is a Linux version. So Penta is out there. Internet, we've got Chrome, OpenDrive, Remina, which this is a really nice VNC application. We've got Skype for Linux here, Discord. Sound and video, we have the audio recorder. We have Kazam, which is to record videos or take screenshots. Pulse audio controls. Universal access screen readers. Administrative programs. Preferences. Favorite apps. These are apps that I've run. And you'll notice that basically since Wine ran at some point, it's out here. Games. There's Steam. If you wanted to play Steam. Solitaire, chess. And, of course, the Office programs. You've got Adobe for PDFs. LibreOffice, all the LibreOffice programs, and Evolution, which is your email. I won't set that up. Calendar, and there's our calendar. We got a weekly calendar, monthly calendar, yearly calendar. Kind of nice. You notice that all of the, let me go back. Let me do that again. Let's come over here to calendar. There it is. And you notice the menu bar up here looks very Windowsy. You don't have that confusion that you would have if you weren't used to the way Linux does those controls. Those are very Windowsy looking controls. We've got a what appears to be an MS-DOS box, but that's really the terminal, which is a Linux terminal, obviously. But that's what most people would think of is, oh, I need to go out to the command prompt. Well, there you go. It's even got Chrome apps already installed because I install Chrome apps as part of my Chrome installations. For instance, system, so I can see what's going on in the system. This will give you some information about the system and the storage, the display that's running, the network, things along that line. That's just a Chrome application. File system for, is that for Dropbox? Not sure. Don't think it's set up in any case. Anyway, SFTP client, that's a Chrome application that I have. But basically, it's kind of cool that it installed all of the different things that I normally would have under, under Chrome, because Chrome is installed. And like I said, it's cool that it's the real Chrome. Let's come here and look at our file system. Now, obviously, this is a Linux file system, so you'll see Linux here. But if I go home, I'm going to have my documents, my downloads, my music, pictures, all the things I would expect, videos, on a Windows box. Pretty much what I am expecting. I click on network. I see the BBN network, which is my local network. I see the Windows network over here. If I click on BBN, here's all the different systems I have set up on my internal network. Pretty cool. Pretty impressive. And you got to admit, it is actually quite Windowsy. And I really love the way that we could install the Windows application there. That's kind of neat. Now, just for additional grins and giggles, trying to install and set up LastPass, because that's, of course, something that I have installed normally under Chrome. Let's go to ESword, ESword.net, another Windows program. We're going to download the installer. Notice it's going to put it in download, just where you'd expect. And let's, now that we've downloaded it, get out of here. And go out here into the file system, go to downloads. There's ESword. Now again, I right click and say open with Windows Program Loader. That will fire up the installation wizard for Windows. And look how fast it is. I love how fast Wine is running on Linux for Windows applications. It is super fast. And remember, Wine is not an emulator. W-I-N-E, Wine is not an emulator. It's not emulating Windows. It's actually running native Linux, but it's running APIs. Okay? It's running the Windows APIs. Now, notice over here, we have the ESword icon. It also installs, usually this happens under Linux, Wine installs. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that extra little link icon. But if I click on ESword here, now that it's installed, it will fire it up. And you'll notice when it does start, now it's setting up some things, obviously, in the background initially. Normally, it's going to be much faster than this. There we go. Alrighty, now I'm going to get rid of my tips, get rid of some of these extra sections so that it's more like I'm used to in ESword. But there you go. You've got the King James with the Strong's numbers. So if I come over here and hover over a Strong's number, there's my definition of the word heaven. Or two, actually, I guess, in this case. Earthly things. Let's go up here and look at that. Earthly things, epigios, worldly, physical, or morally or earthly things. So, yeah, okay. We could also come up here and download more Bibles. So we could get all the different, these are all free Bibles, and then these are Bibles you have to purchase if you have a license for them, which I have a license for most of those, but just personally. But if we wanted to install Bible in Basic English, we just click on it. It would download. Notice it's just downloading the file. And once it finishes downloading, you come up here and close this out. It says you need to restart to see it, so let's get out, get back in. And you should notice that when we get back in here, it will fire up a little bit faster than it did initially. Oh, important updates are available. There you go. I'll do that here in a second. But we get back in and we now notice we've got the Bible in Basic English. So we've added that translation. And that's how you would do it with ESword, whether you're in Windows or, in this case, Linux running Wine, so that a Windows program will run correctly. So now we've installed 2 Windows programs on LinDoz. Let's go down here and click this and say update now. And it will go out and run the install for the updates. You gotta admit, this is pretty nice. Most Windows users would not have a tremendous amount of trouble with this. It would go pretty smoothly for them. All right, and you know, that red icon down there, they would have gone, oh, what's that about? And clicked on it and done the updates, I believe. So, hey. I like this over here, too, where it's displaying the date and time, talking about the user and top running processes. All of that's kind of nice. It's even giving some news headlines from MakuluLinux. So, you know, it's telling us about the new versions and so forth. That could be replaced with additional, you know, or different news if you wanted to. That's configurable, which is kind of nice. But all in all, this is actually pretty impressive. And I think in terms of a Linux for Windows users, it doesn't get a whole lot better than this. Okay? This is definitely pretty nice. Now, you know, this is interesting how it's telling you what it's doing. Commence with Makulu updates, fixing mobile phone connectivity is one of the things that needed to fix, so it's going through and it's just doing its thing. Processing all that automatically. Fixes applied. Update patch number. Let's copy sync some files and folders. There you go. Now it's going to check, make sure the system's up to date. For Linux people, this is running apt-get update. Okay, just to run it and check. Once it completes, since we've just done an update, it should say, oh yeah, that's done. Oh, no, this is interesting. The following packages need to be removed because they've been superseded, and it told us that we needed to run auto remove. That would be sudo apt-get update auto remove. For Linux users, will it do it automatically since this is a Windowsy version of Linux? We'll see. If not, we can do it by hand if we have to. At least it told us what to do if we were paying attention. Although I'm not sure everybody would remember the syntax. But we'll see here. I probably shouldn't have done the full update, given that in this case it's fairly extensive, but hey, I'm giving you the actual full experience here. So I like the fact that it's running Cinnamon as a GUI. Again, very clean, very, it's pretty much what we're used to as Windows users. Other things we have down here, Spices update, middle click to open useful Cinnamon settings. What else do we have? Wired network, notifications. Oh, here we go. We can update Spices. Your system needs to be updated. That's what we're already doing. So let's clear those notifications. Then down here, wallpaper selector. Nice. Ooh, pretty. Got all kinds of wallpapers we can pick from. Let's pick something interesting looking. Wow. Hard to decide. There's all kinds of good selections. That one looks interesting. Let's try that one. Yeah, there you go. All right. What about this one? That looks kind of cool. Yeah, like that. Very nice. Let me move this over. Yeah. Very nice. Okay. Boy, a lot of choices. And keep in mind that you can add various choices to this list as well. And, of course, somebody's calling me. As usually happens when I'm doing a program, somebody calls me. Anyway, we're 71% of the way through here. Quit out of the selector. This is entirely more than I intended to do. But that's okay. You don't have anything much to do, do you? Let's look at software while we're here and waiting for these updates to complete. Software is featured applications. These are applications that you can install that are native Linux applications. So we can see what is installed, we can get updates, or we can pick things we want. Okay? So for instance, I'm a big fan of the GIMP. So if I were wanting to install that, I would come up here and do a search for GIMP. And it will go out. Well, I got to hit return, don't I? And it'll come up here. Now we can either do Photo GIMP, which is where somebody has updated it to look more like Photoshop, or the regular GIMP, which is what I'm used to. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. Click it. This was Makulu. There we go. This is the password of the OVA, okay, which I got off their website. So that's why I had to think, oh, yeah, what is it? We discovered it earlier. So now we have it. All right. Installing the GIMP. What I want to show you once the GIMP's installed is something kind of interesting. And that is, oh, you know what? I bet it's having a hard time installing it since we're doing updates in the background, because it may have the system locked doing updates. Silly me. Oh, well. That's what I get for trying to push. Oh, well, it did. Okay. It did. It is available. So let's launch it. If it will. Yeah, okay. Still having a hard time, I think, because we're doing updates, but it's still coming up. Give it credit. It's giving it the old college try here. Going into the GIMP. Now, as usual with most things, with the GIMP, the first time you run it is the hardest or the most work it's going to need to run because it's setting up so much in the background. So if I come over here and quit, yeah, it's going to say, oh, yeah, it failed because it didn't go as smoothly. But here's what I wanted you to see. If I go over here to graphics, oh, okay. It normally would put the icon over here for the GIMP. But since it technically failed, it didn't do that. But it would normally if I wasn't running updates in the background. To give you the reason why, I know some of you going, I thought you said Linux was cool. It is, it is. But here's the thing. When you're doing an update, you lock the parts of Linux that are involved in the update. You lock it up. It's like trying to install 2 or 3 Windows programs at the same time, and Windows is going to come back and say, hold on a minute here. What you need to do is do one thing at a time. And technically, that's kind of what we're doing here. Trying to do too many things at once. All right. Come on, come on, come on. Hurry up and finish. I'm getting bored. I'm sure you are too. Okay. Anyway. Once it completes, we will do this again because I want you to see how it automatically populates that icon. I think that's pretty cool. And oh, by the way, updates don't usually take this long. The reason it's taking this long is because I just installed it, you might say fresh, and it's doing its initial update. So it's updating everything on the system since that OVA was created originally. And so there you go. That's why it's taking so long. Normally, if it was just going to update a couple of files, a typical update, it would have gone boom and been done, and we'd moved on, and life would have been good. But there you go. I'm just going to speed up through this part. All right, all updates are applied. It is recommended you reboot your computer. Well, that's nice, but we're not going to do that right now. Let's go back to the software installer and oh, okay, it's wanting to restart. Yeah, maybe I should. Okay. It's a little happier now. So, let's go back here and do the GIMP. One more time. Install it. Makulu is our password. It says it's already installed. I suspect that's because it got partially through the install before. Software is up to date, installed. Let's take a look and see if the GIMP is among our installations here. Yeah, sure enough. Tell you what, let's do. Let's remove the GIMP. You know it's a little funky if it's in there twice. Okay, so now it is cleanly out of there. So let's go back here to our search and find the GIMP again. Oops. That's too fast on the draw. There we go. All right. GIMP, install. Now it should install cleanly. And sure enough, it did. Let's hit launch. And actually, we'll come over here and look at graphics. Still not listed there. Very interesting. Okay. There it is. I'm going to cleanly get out of that. Exit that. Okay, so now we're going to check it out over here under graphics. And now we have the new image. Okay, so now we're going to go over here and check it out under graphics. Now we have the new image manipulator program, or the GIMP. And sure enough, it launches and runs very quickly, and there we are. So we're good to go. Still telling us about that Spices update, but that's okay. We won't mess with that. So there you go, MakuluLinux-LinDoz. I trust you enjoyed this, and if you're looking for a Linux that is friendly for Windows users, then you found it here. We'll go ahead and quit and shut it down. Okay, do you see the benefits for Windows users of going to MakuluLinux, the LinDoz Edition? I'm telling you, you need to check it out. Download it, install it, particularly for your friends that are still using that old clunky, junky Windows from the evil empire of Microsoft. Yes, indeed. Well, that'll do it for this show. Join us again next time. Remember, until then, that the doctor is out of here.
Dr. Bill, the Computer Curmudgeon, is a production of DrBillDaily.net with all the honors, rights, and privileges thereunto appertaining.